let's get started. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. This one's about the elections, about how the voter suppression that's going on, and this is not being talked about in the mainstream media. It's really interesting that despite the fact that the Mick Resistance, MSNBC, NPR, all those, they want to say that Trump is trying to delegitimize the election. They want to say that, which he is, and they want to say that Trump's trying to, hurt your faith in the Postal Service, which he is. But they don't actually call out the actual voter suppression, actually how this thing is being rigged, usually, for the most part. And the reason is because they still want you to believe that this election system is 100% legit, that there are no flaws in it, that there's no massive fucking systemic problems with this election system. I covered it endlessly at the last election, how faulty the machines are, how all the suppressions, interstate cross-check, the number of people purged from the rolls, largely people of color are purged from the rolls. You got millions of people that were purged just by interstate cross-check. And, for example, in Michigan, Trump won by 10,000 votes. Interstate cross-check purged 500,000 people from the voter rolls, largely people of color. Both Latinx, Black, Asian, and most of that is not talked about on your mainstream so-called liberal outlets. And the reason is because they want you to believe this election system is not fucked. And it truly is in so many ways. And anyway, the latest one is from Greg Palast. Greg Palast, great journalist who has really covered this a lot. He tends to cover more the voter suppression on the general election rather than the primaries. And I don't need to get into how Bernie was robbed this time around. I mean, I did cover it when it was happening, but Bernie Sanders was robbed yet again. Obama actually called the candidates, Buttigieg and Klobuchar and the others, to tell them to get out of the race and endorse Joe Biden all before Super Tuesday, so that they could make sure to stop Bernie Sanders from winning. And a lot of people pointed out that the two times Obama has gotten involved in politics, really, over this entire time since he's been in the presidency, was to stop Bernie Sanders and to stop the NBA strike. Those are the two, because apparently Obama called the NBA teams and got them to agree to play after one day of striking. So those are the two times Obama has been like, I cannot sit here any longer. I must speak out. I must stop Bernie Sanders, and I must make sure the NBA doesn't have the power of its labor, doesn't show Americans how important the laborers are, the workers are, how they can stop an entire fucking sports industry on a dime, how they can bring a sports industry to its knees if they want to. I got to make sure Americans don't know that, because if they know that, they might think, hey, I bet if we work together in our industry, we could stop them and demand things. So anyway, that's fucking Obama for you, that fucking corporate shill. What a sad piece of shit. But anyway, this is Greg Palast, and this has to do with just Wisconsin, which, as most of you know, is a battleground state. And right now, going on, this was just published a few days ago, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, now Palast is saying, may have chosen the next president. That is, justices heard arguments in a lawsuit that would force the state to remove 129,000 from the voter rolls on grounds they'd moved from their registration addresses. Now, to put that in perspective, 129,000 voters. Like I said, Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,000 votes. He won Wisconsin by not that much last time around. So they're purging 129,000 people for moving. And so here he continues, but a report by the nation's top experts in address verification, including the official licensee of the U.S. Postal Service, says that at least 39 or almost 40,000 movers did not move. The hit list is not only disturbingly wrong, it is suspiciously overweighted with African Americans. What are the odds that 40,000 of the list is completely wrong, and that 40,000 Oh, here we go. And that 40,000 doesn't even count people that did move but remained in the same county, meaning they are still entitled to be registered in that county. Given Trump's 2016 Wisconsin victory margin was less than 23,000 votes. So Trump only won by 23,000 votes last time around, and now they're purging 129,000 voters from the rolls for basically nothing. Most of them did not move. At least half of those did not move out of the county. It's probably far more than half. But anyway, I wanted to show you this this map here. So if you can see it, this is the wrongly tagged moved voters versus the percent of black population in Milwaukee County in Wisconsin. Now, so this one on the left is the number of people that were wrongly identified as movers. So the darker the orange, the more people were wrongly identified and purged from the rolls if the Supreme Court in Wisconsin allows it. So very dark area right around here, rather dark here. That's all wrongly purged from the voter rolls. Now we get over here. This is the percent of population that is black in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. What do you notice about these two maps? Right here, heavily black population. Here, still largely black population. And it fits almost perfectly with the number of people purged from the rolls. So they made sure to purge people from these rolls that were coming from areas of Wisconsin that are heavily black areas. This is by design. It's not an accident. Republicans have, at least in this state, have the control of that machinery, and therefore they can they have an easier time doing this type of thing. And obviously, Trump and the Republicans know that black people are far less likely to vote Republican. And I've often said, although I call out the two-party sham system, these are two corporate parties that agree on 90% of the core issues of our country. Although I call them out endlessly, and I will not stop. I fucking go at them every day. But that doesn't mean I don't want a legit election. So if the Republicans are committing an election fraud in a certain sense, I will call that out. When the Democrats have committed election fraud in other senses during their own primary, scamming Bernie Sanders, etc., I will call that out. I'm not going to skip over one or the other. And so I know some people like to, whenever I say, look, the Republicans are purging these voters from the rolls, they go, God damn it, Lee, why are you standing up for the Democrats? It's like, no, I just want a fucking legit election, all right? That's all I want. I want the election to actually count. And as I've said many times, electoral politics should not be your focus all the time. It should not be the thing you spend your nights and days on. It should be something you just do. You just go vote. And the reason is because not voting does nothing. It's something they like. They would love for you not to vote. Furthermore, there's a lot of down ballot races and issues that often are not as rigged or not rigged at all. And you can have a big influence, a much bigger influence on all of those down ballot issues. But anyway, this is incredibly important story. Greg Palast got to the heart of it. His research is often quoted in these lawsuits. Very similar stuff going on in Georgia as well. Here's some more. The Palast Fund reached out to over 700 voters, and we heard the same story again and again. I never moved. Adding to the bias against, so it's also a bias, that's what he's about to say, it's also biased against young people and low-income people. Adding to the bias against low-income and young voters, these junk mail cards. So what he's talking about, which he must have mentioned earlier, is that they send out postcards to people, and they basically say, if you moved, if you didn't move, so if this address is correct, then let us know, and we'll keep you on the voter rolls. But the problem is no one responds to those fucking postcards. Because it's a fucking postcard. If you get a postcard, what do you do with it? You wipe your ass with it maybe, and you throw it out. That is it. No one's sitting there going, only very old people have tons of time on their hand. People over 75 sit at home and go, I got a postcard. Let me see what it says. It says, respond to this if you'd like to remain a voter. Okay, I will now spend the next 5 minutes responding to this, putting a stamp on it, putting it in the post box, all that shit. No one fucking does that. So they send out these postcards to purge people from the rolls. They know you aren't going to respond, and they purge you from the voter rolls. And what ends up happening is people show up to the voting booth on the day of the election, or they send in their votes, and they're thrown out. Or they show up on if they show up in person, then the person at the polls says, "You're not on the polls. We don't have your name here." And the guy goes, "I swear I'm registered." And they go, "Okay, here's a provisional ballot." Now that sounds really great, right? A provisional ballot? Wow, that must mean I get to vote. No, provisional ballots are almost never counted. When they are, it's weeks after the election. Provisional ballots are, if they give you a provisional ballot, just also wipe your ass with it. That one you can wipe your ass with. The postcard you got to send back. But so provisional ballots are garbage. And as I was saying, this is not just against black and brown people. This is against low income and young voters, because young voters are far more likely to move, right? They don't own houses. They're not staying in the same place year after year. They're going to college, etc. They're out on the roads, hooking up with random people, becoming a gigolo, that kind of thing. You know how it is when you're young. And so they're far more likely to move. Same with low income people. Low income people also don't own homes, and they have to move because they get kicked out for evictions or lose their job, or the rent goes up or whatever. And that. So this is all by design. This is by design to purge low income, young, and people of color from the voter rolls. And Greg Palast does an amazing job of presenting this, but he increasingly. By the way, Greg Palast, if you don't know his history, he used to be far more welcome on maybe even occasionally on like MSNBC, but really far more welcome on like the BBC, Guardian. He was on Democracy Now! All the time. Now maybe they have him on Democracy Now! Once or twice, but they rarely have him on anymore because the level of allowable thought has shrunk. The corporate airwaves are even more consolidated. And, the BBC is more owned by the ruling corporate powers than ever before. Same with The Guardian. That's why The Guardian hasn't stood up for Julian Assange at all, fucking ever. I mean, someone tweeted the other day, if you put 1,000 Guardian journalists in a room and let them type on a typewriter for infinity, will they eventually write an article in support of Julian Assange? It's a good question. I don't know. It's possible, but I think it's unlikely. So you have an increasing level of ownership by the corporate elite of these media airwaves. And so Greg Palast, who used to be, he's still a New York Times bestselling author, but who used to be very prevalent on these airwaves, now rarely gets on. So you can go to gregpalast.com. You can read the rest of the article if you'd like. Check your voter registration if you get a chance. And definitely vote, but do not look for voting to save you. Voting's not going to save you. Joe Biden's not going to save us. It's something you do, but it's something that you should not expect to get high-fived for. Just fucking do it and then move on with your day. And the real change in this country is going to come from people uniting, people joining together and demanding change, but also creating the change themselves. Things like mutual aid, things like wildcat strikes at businesses. Things like people unionizing, things like people getting together and making sure that their friends and family and neighbors aren't evicted from their homes. These are all the things that are going to create large-scale change, not fucking voting for a corporate candidate. You can do it, but it's not something you should picture as, you won. I did it. I won. I voted for the next corporate candidate to, slightly change one little thing here or there. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed all of this moment of clarity. Please share it with people. We're heavily suppressed, so any way you can help get it out there. And click subscribe. Click the bell next to the subscribe button. That's all at youtube.com/moment of clarity. And check out my podcasts, Common Censored and Government Secrets. Okay, keep fighting.